now, support a friend and save a life. For more information on cyberbullying, visit stopthememe.wordpress.com or call the hotline at 1-800-555-STOP. A message from your friends here at Splash Radio.
Wait, right? Well, actually, you know what? Since I just have Kevin, let's just sit over here.
Hi.
And then I can put on.
Box truck for rent for all your light moving needs. Anywhere within the North
Hey, man.
Orange, Irvington, Orange areas. $50 a trip from Monday through Thursday. $60 from Friday through Sunday. Call 862-279-9300. That's 862-279-9300.
I'll call you.
May 12th, the biggest Tourist Bash New Jersey has ever seen. Lux Entertainment brings to you New York meets New Jersey. Tourist State of Mind, Black and Gold Affair. The official birthday bash for Little Rihanna, DJ Tef, Hot Rod the God, and out of New York, DJ Rich Rated R. Friday, May 12th, 2017, 48 Branford Place, North New Jersey. Music powered by DJ Biggs, DJ Maul, DJ Chronic, DJ Rich, DJ Dark Kent, and straight from New York City, DJ Kev Rich and Prince Chills. Doors open at 10 p.m. There will be tight security. Drink and birthday packages are available. For more information, please log on to touriststateofmind.eventbrite.com. Again, that's touriststateofmind.eventbrite.com. May 12th, New York meets New Jersey. Tourist State of Mind, Black and Gold Affair. Be there.
Jenkins Entertainment in association with H&M proudly present Mother's Day Search, a tribute to all mothers. On the 14th of May, the club gonna be Club Eclipse. That's 247 Fabian Place, Newark, New Jersey. Y'all know what that is. Performing live is your host, Ghost Rider, your soul provider. I'm the big man himself, my daddy, Ken Booth. So all them ladies, them dainty babies, just come out early and support your mommy. Bring out your mommy. And all of them road boys, bring out your mommy. Remember, admission is only party and at the gate more. So remember, music provided by Unity, DJ Quinto, DJ Jason, DJ Hurl, MC Gren Gren, and Lady D. So remember, come out early, New Jersey, to all of my ladies, my dainty babies. Take your mom to Hickman. It's a special night from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's Mama special night. Love you, Mama. Club Eclipse, fortune of me, Mother's Day. Wow, wow. Ghost can be. No, 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 no.
The biggest outdoor water party to hit New Jersey, H2O and Soca, formerly known as PCW. Go to H2ONJ.eventbrite.com. H2O.
Sing it, representing the color heritage. Represent the heritage. Marcus Garvey family. Color heritage family. Fashion with culture. Mama Shanti. But remember, it's important to represent the culture. Hey, hey, hey. Color heritage. And guess what I win, Stan? Representing from the Caribbean. Listen up. The blood of African kings run up in our color heritage, rebellious offspring. Winston got a warrior spirit inside. From that time we can't him. And this a warrior spirit inside. It come from the record, the shackle and chain. Him and a shaka Zulu. And Kuma. Kunta Kinte. I tell a color heritage, I'm a family. The voice of the Australian, remember record culture, color heritage, this fashion as I
Check out colorheritage.com.
I just suggested it. Okay.
Looking for trustworthy tax professionals? Give Impact Corp a call. We will assist you with all your tax needs. We are a team of CPAs and IRS enrolled agents. Looking for trustworthy tax professionals? Give Impact Corp a call. We will assist you out-of-pocket costs. We provide 3 years audit protection and a year identity theft protection, so you can have peace of mind without fear of audit. Call our team of tax experts today, 973-395-4401.
For the most authentic Caribbean food in town, check out Sunsplash Caribbean Bakery and Restaurant. They got the natural organic juice bar that'll get your day started right. Like the Power Punch, the Fig Juice, the Mega Green, Roots like the Immortal, and the Resurrection. And peep this, they have an extended bakery department that whips up my favorite, the hot Hardo bread. White or wheat, that's your choice.
If you're feeling hungry, just grab a bite. Sunsplash Bakery food is right. Jamaican party, I tell our veggies. Great food is right. Mix the peanut with the caramel porridge.
Serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they also cater to vegans and vegetarians with the Ital stew and the Ital aki, the soul jerk salmon and mango tilapia. And of course, they got the usual curry goat, oxtail, brown stew chicken, jerk chicken, and so much more. I mean, their menu is extended and they're highly rated. Your best bet is to just stop by or give them a call. They're open Monday through Wednesday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Thursday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sundays, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. They're located at 56 Main Street in Orange, New Jersey, and can be reached at 973-395-3777.
These days are some hungry days. We need some more food up and we empty plate. Long time we there and we sit on a wait. Sunsplash restaurant I run the place. Everybody we say just want a taste, yeah.
Let your food be a medicine. Eat well, live longer. I'm David Shepard, and I endorse this commercial.
Eric Dawson. Mornings at 10 o'clock.
Hey, bro, you're doing a great job. Love listening to you.
On 94.3.
Splash Radio.
Splash Radio. 94.3. Reggae. Dance hall. Soca. Hip hop and R&B. African. Disco. Oldies but goodies.
Large up, rude boy, Mr. Lover. Shut it! Yo, the best station on the planet.
Splash Radio 94.3, New Jersey.
Well, you don't know, so Mr. G represent for 94.3 FM Splash Radio. We'll just splash out the music on them.
Initialize sequence now.
Your attention, please. This is no ordinary show. Covering news and information for Essex County, New Jersey, and beyond. This is the Eric Dawson Radio Show. Broadcasting from 94.3 Splash Radio. Now, here's your host, giving it to you like only he can. It's Eric Dawson.
Hey, this is Eric Dawson, and this is the Eric Dawson Radio Show, 94.3 FM. Call-in number 973-457-8000. Again, 973-457-8000. If you're listening through your mobile devices, 213-493-0287. And as always, we're streaming live on Facebook. And I'm here. Happy Monday, Kevin Jenkins.
Happy Monday, buddy. How you doing? How was your weekend?
I'm doing all right, man. Listen, I got rest, man.
Yeah, I did.
I got a lot of rest. I got more, I was in bed last night at around 7:30.
Feel better, right?
Oh, brother, I woke up this morning. I felt like $1 million. I don't have $1 million, but I felt like
You have $1 million.
But listen, I want to, before we get started, man, I was with my brother Rasul yesterday.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the banter that we were having on the show, me, you, and Rashawn, and we were talking about Planet Fitness.
Right.
Right? And he said, oh, yeah, man. He said, that's the no judgment gym.
Again?
Yeah, Yeah, so I said, are you serious? He said, yeah, man. He said, no judgment. He said, when you come in there, you're not supposed to, even, and I told him the whole thing with the water. He said, no, it's just not a joke. And then a friend of mine that I talked to today, who I want to, and I know he listens to the show, so big shout out to my best friend in the whole world, Wiley Woodard, who's down in South Carolina, man.
Okay.
I was talking to him today. He had a medical procedure, and I wish him well. But we were talking about that too. He said, yeah, man, I saw the commercials. I swear, when you guys were talking about it, I mean, I kind of believed you. Like, I didn't disbelieve you.
Right.
But, like this whole notion of a no judgment gym is a trip.
I don't know. Why can't we just go to the gym?
Just go to the gym. That's what I said. Just go to the gym, do your thing, and then, leave it alone. Russell said, I put my headphones on, man, and I zone everybody else out.
Yeah, but it's a nice gym. I hear it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. And for people to be able to walk there, it's great. Yeah. So I might just go on Sundays. I don't know, because I go to my gym every day. When I'm here, obviously I don't go to the gym.
Right.
But when I try to leave here, I try to go, or, I double up, do a twice a day or something because I need to exercise. Exercise is very good for my creative thinking.
Okay.
I love it, so I'm cool with it.
So I actually listed today the topics, right? That we talked about discussing today, and they're not necessarily in this order, but I did nonetheless list them, and we're going to talk about DeLacy Davis.
Oh, DeLacy Davis.
DeLacy Davis. I'm sorry, DeLacy Davis.
We should talk about our new segment. Tell us what you're doing.
Tell us what you're doing segment, right? So
he's going to inaugurate that today,
which is going to be fantastic, man. I got a chance to listen to his, some of his stuff. I went and Googled and listened. Oh man, and to know that here's a guy coming out of Newark.
Right.
Doing the great work that he's been doing for so very long. So it's going to be very, very interesting to have a conversation with him. Wish he could be in the studio, but he's going to call in.
Well, sometimes it's great to have them call in too, and that if we want to extend the conversation, we should bring him and invite him.
Okay.
But this "Tell Me What You Do" tell me what you're doing segment is pretty cool because it allows us to find people in the city of Newark that are doing superhuman things, that are giving a lot of their time and love to their city, and we have to tell that story. I mean, we don't get a chance to tell that story often. Sometimes we find ourselves telling the bad stuff.
Right.
Well, we should be talking about individuals that are doing the great stuff.
And so now, how do you want to do that? I mean, we will be identifying people individually,
right.
But do you want to create an opportunity for the listening audience to get involved and to recommend people that we might want to consider?
Oh, absolutely. That's the whole thing.
Right. So you guys heard that, right?
Yeah.
So if you know
Absolutely.
somebody who's doing great work. Because there's a lot of negative stuff that goes on in our communities, but we want to accentuate the positive as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's the perfect segue into that. I mean, he's just going to be phenomenal. I'm bringing past. You're just going to go on and on and on, bringing some talented people that are doing some phenomenal things in the city of Newark. So I just thought this would be the first way to lead into that.
I agree.
And it's real simple. Tell us what you're doing.
Tell us what you're doing.
Not that complicated.
Yeah. And then the other thing we're going to talk about is the school board elect. Man, I'm not over that yet.
Well, nobody's over
right? And more importantly, the reorganization that took place. We're also going to discuss legal counsel. Yeah. I can't even say it, man. Legal counsel for the mayor. So
what mayor?
For Mayor Baraka
in
Newark, right? So my understanding is that he requested personal legal counsel. My understanding is that the city has corporate counsel, but that he wanted personal counsel and was able to persuade 7 of the 9 council members to vote for that for him. So we're going to talk about that. The Affordable Care Act.
Right.
That's huge.
Right.
That's
you and I have been sending information.
Oh, man, tons of information. And so we got a side-by-side comparison, right? I'm going to try to pull that up while we're having our discussion, and we can kind of go through some of that. I'm going to also post a link to that side-by-side comparison so you guys can follow along and weigh in.
Yeah, and I also wanted to add Obama's quotes. Obama, I wanted to add a couple of things.
From last night?
From last night, right.
Yeah. So last night he was on.
And I also want to add, I have a part of that discussion about Obama because he's being criticized for making money after he left, after leaving the presidency, which disturbs me. But I want to talk about that just a little bit.
No, we should. I mean, now,
That's just amazing.
We may be a little bit on the opposite sides of that one, so it's going to be interesting to have that discussion. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about, well, at least that we have on the docket, other things may come up as callers call in, is the French election.
Oh, now that, dude, I don't know if people, I hope everybody was paying attention to that. And that's something that I really want to spend some time with. I mean, the whole style of the election, the whole French, their whole socialistic perspective of how they pick their candidates. That is really, I really want to spend some time with. I've been watching it for the whole week.
And what it all means at the end, right? So you all understand the impact. You understand what was at stake, what they saw at stake. I was also very impressed when 75% of the electorate turned out.
Oh, yeah. And guess what? From what I understand, that they were concerned that if it wasn't going to be a turnout or not, but it proved.
It turned out to be a turnout. So there's
they were fighting for France's socialist views. But at the end of the day, I want to get into it. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about.
Yeah. So we got Delancey. I'm sorry, DeLacy Davis. Right. I keep thinking Delancey Street, man. I don't know why. So we got DeLacy Davis calling in at around 10:30. Yeah. Right. So we're at 18 after the hour now. So let's jump in. I guess the easiest one to talk about for the next 12 or 15 minutes would be the mayor of Newark and this idea of him wanting his own legal counsel.
Well, I heard about it last week. I didn't really go and get involved into too much. The first thing I thought of when I heard it was that it was unprecedented. I had never seen anything like that done before in city government, and I worked there for a long time. I worked there under Mayor Sharp James. I worked with some of the most dynamic council people, and it struck me as strange. And then the lawyer that he picked, or the lawyer that he wanted, was Eric Pennington, if I'm not mistaken. He's a great lawyer, great human being, but he's a criminal lawyer.
Right.
So, and then on top of that, we have a legal department already that has an abundance of lawyers in there that can act as advisors to the mayor on particular issues that fall within the policy realm, fall into the development realm, fall into the human services realm. So having a private lawyer for the mayor, that's a very tricky landscape. So for instance, who does the lawyer work for? He gets paid by the city. He gets voted on by the council. So is this information private, the conversations he's having between the mayor and himself? That's number one. Why do you hire a criminal attorney? What do you need a criminal attorney for? The city has been sued over and over and over and over again. We just, I think the former legal counsel just sued, I think she was the legal counsel, Karen Brown sued and received $500,000. And there's probably an enormous amount of lawsuits that are coming before the city in the next couple of months. So, I didn't understand why it was necessary. We have lawyers, and we have outside lawyers that represent City of Newark that are not working for the legal department. So to hire a criminal attorney, right, without understanding what the full scope of that relationship is with the governing body and the information that it is supposed to be sharing with the governing body or the community, or is it public information, that's kind of scary. I don't think that that's ever been done before. Now, the council have lawyers, right, that are basically researchers. And they basically represent, and they've been there for like 25 years, but they don't represent an individual council person. They work through the clerk's office.
Right.
So in the Mayor Sharp James, when he was in office, if we had to hire a lawyer, it would probably be to go and fight the Newark Housing Authority. Go and fight someone that might be personally suing him about an issue that is going to impact the city, but never a personal.
So now, but somebody posted this for me. They said that there's currently lawsuits. There are 3 of them. I don't know how to pronounce this last name. Emenuga. Emenuga. And then the docket number is L004361115. And then there was the one with Keith Isaacs. Right? The late Keith Isaac.
Right.
And then the one with Brown.
Well, there's look, lawsuits come and go. I mean, there's a lot of people sue you for everything. But here's the issue. You're going to pay another lawyer $60,000 of the taxpayers' money. right? And we don't know what the relationship is. Is it if you need a private attorney, you need to pay for that private attorney. For instance, Joe Blow, council person right now, could say, I want a private lawyer. I want a lawyer to do this, and do that for me. Are they going to stop him from getting a lawyer? So there was no precedent for that. So wait a minute. But then is it because of something criminal is going on? Now, and this wouldn't be a discussion if he didn't open it up to a discussion, right? We wouldn't be discussing this because somebody would have given him legal advice, say, I don't think that's the way you do that. But now it's out in the public, and 7 council people voted for it. Gail didn't vote for it,
and Ramos, I heard, didn't vote for it.
So, what was the reason for the other council people to vote for it?
Well, last time we tried to call Councilman Amador from the show, he was unavailable. Maybe when we take our break, I'll try to call him because
call any of them because I'm curious. There is no reason, and I really want to know, and I really need to know this. If you hire a criminal attorney, is it because there's some criminal activity or some indictments coming down that you might not want the public to know? And if that is the case, this lawyer is being paid by the taxpayer, so you have no attorney-client privilege there. You would probably have more attorney-client privilege if it was in the legal department. That's my question. That's my question. So why would you want to have a private attorney? You don't trust your legal department? You don't trust your BA? You don't trust your director of development?
So is it your understanding that if he were to engage corporate counsel, that he would have that attorney-client privilege more so than he would if he? Well,
I think you're covered more. But here's the question for the day: why do you need it in the first place? And why are you hiring? Eric Pennington is a great lawyer. I mean, phenomenal African American lawyer. Why would you need a criminal attorney? Why would you go before the council, in particular now with all of the other financial issues we have, right? Why would you seek to have your own personal counsel? Now,
and at what cost again?
And I think it's roughly about $60, and that can go up. That can go up one way or another. It might be on the ordinance on the resolution. It probably said not to exceed, but that's okay. I mean, we get that. Things happen. But the question for me is why. Now, Gail.
Well, I'm imagining he answered that why question to the council before they voted for it. Well, we would hope.
I think Gail and Anibal are very, very astute elected officials, and for them not to vote on it, they saw something wrong with it. But here's the question: if I said to Gail, you need a personal attorney to represent you on the council,
right?
Well, what stops them from not saying yes? They would all have to vote yes.
I mean, so you do have a precedent that has not been set. But I guess my big thing now is that I look and say, if you had 7 council people who voted for it, now did Councilwoman Cheneyfield or Ramos indicate why they did not vote for it?
Well, I think some of the issues that we just brought up, like what is the need for it?
No, but that's what I'm saying. So when he went before the council, he being Mayor Baraka.
Well, no, I don't think he went before. I think legal counsel or I don't know if he went. I have to qualify that. I'm just telling you what the vote indicated. So we would have to qualify if he went before the council.
Because somebody went before the council and somebody said to the council, we need you to sign off on this.
Right.
And the council said, okay, or 7 of them, 7 out of the 9 said, okay. And now the 7 out of the 9, I mean, I would hope that they would have done due diligence and said, well, why do you need it? We have corporation. Well, why does he need it if corporation counsel came to them? Well, why does he need it? He has you. Why do we need to spend $60,000 additional taxpayer dollars for him?
Well, obviously, 7 of them were comfortable with it and 2 of them weren't. So we need to find that out in the next couple of days so we can. But here again is the pattern that we've been discussing for weeks. You have the planning department now that are giving support to projects that they're trying to supersede the Board of Adjustment. They're trying to sign off on things before they bring it before the Board of Adjustment, before they bring it before the Planning Board.
Right.
Now that's a problem. That's breaking down the due process. That's breaking down that's slicing government in half, right? So there's a pattern that's continuing to evolve in this administration, that once you bring it up, it's like, oh, you're beating up on us, but it's not supposed to happen. Checks and balances are important. You would need a lawyer if you were engaged in the right kind of government relationship, counsel, legal, finance, judicial. You wouldn't have those kind of problems. So we're going to have a problem in our planning department. We're going to have a problem in our zoning department. I mean, it is the way government is being ran now. It's not efficient enough. It's not based on what the practical purposes of those departments were to do. That's why we have a legal department. That's why we have a tax department. That's why we have a police department. So I got to tell you, I think that something is fundamentally wrong, and I think it's going to kick back on us, because the day that young man goes and is challenged about information, Oprah, he's going to say, well, we got client privilege. Mm-hmm. Well, you don't. You really don't. I'm the taxpayer, right? So right. I want the information.
So this is what I would ask.
That could happen.
So this is what I would suggest every person. Well, I want to take a second and ask everybody who's watching the show, as always, please hit share now so that we can get this information out to as many people as we possibly can. But I would then challenge you to call your council person, right? So what the information we just provided you with now is that all council members, with the exception of Councilwoman Gail Cheneyfield Jenkins and Aníbal Ramos, voted to approve the $60,000 expenditure for the mayor to have his private counsel, a criminal attorney. Call and ask your elected official, your ward council person or your at-large council person, why did you vote on this? Why would you have voted for this? And see what they say. But this is part of what we talk about, Kev, where, you guys can go beyond just complaining about your circumstances. You need to micromanage your government, right? And so now you know what they did. If you don't agree with it, if you think that there's a problem with that, then it's incumbent upon you now to take some action.
Well, you can't, listen, to be fair, you can't blame... You can't put all of the onus of what's happening in our government on the mayor. We have a council.
You're right.
If they're not doing their job, that's a problem.
Well, that's why I said call council. That's why I didn't say call mayor's office.
To get up there every day and rubber stamp anything that comes across the table, because it gives the illusion that you're currying favor. Mm-hmm. I mean, no, that's never. When I was in city government, that never happened. I mean, the wars that I was involved in with Mayor Sharp James and or Bessie Walker or Donald Tucker or Gail J, they were bloody. Right. And then they would agree at the end that, okay, here's how we should do it, right? When it came to the water authority, here's how we should do it. Didn't want to happen, it didn't happen. Sharp wanted it to happen, but it didn't happen. When it came to how the arena was going to be built and the money was spent, I mean, hours and hours of back and forth about what to do, right? Mm-hmm. So when you see a council that just rubber stamps everything, because they're currying favor for something so nominal.
Well, but what we understand now,
but I'm saying, but that's a breakdown.
You got an election coming up a year from now, mm-hmm. right? And a lot of those guys are trying to figure out how to be reelected.
Well, we talked about that several weeks ago. That's just
right.
I can't even understand how anybody could be having that conversation.
But that's the conversation they're having. So they're not having a conversation about how to improve your quality of life.
Yeah.
They're not trying to have a conversation on how to possibly save that $60,000 expenditure or any of these other things.
Well, they're surely not having a conversation about those 4 tax increases.
Right.
They're surely not having a conversation about the tax levy, the school board tax levy that's going to go up. They're not having a discussion about anything. I'm curious to find out, what are they having a discussion about?
Well, I'm telling you, their whole discussion right now, guys, is about how they can become reelected.
And they can't blame it. And listen, I mean, let's be clear. They can't blame all of this on the mayor. They can't say, oh, it was him. No, it's you. You're the council, right? So if you're not asking critical questions, I dare say, let's ask the people at home to watch a council meeting. I don't get a chance to watch them anymore. I guarantee you, there are no probing questions coming from that body outside of a few people. That's our call.
Oh, that's our call? Here, push the button.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hello, caller?
Kevin. Hi, DeLacy Davis calling in.
Hey, how are you, sir? So listen, before we get started, I queued up the audio file that you gave me, Kev. So we're going to play this audio file, and then we'll get into our discussion with DeLacy Davis. Here we go.
Go.
Hi, I'm DeLacy Davis from the Family Support Organization of Union County. And if you're watching this video, it's because you're aware that we have a Power Mondays male mentoring program. And I just want you to know that we have learned so much from this cohort 3 of 2016 because I am and we are Power Mondays male mentoring.
There we go. So how are you, sir?
I am fine by God's grace. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity and peace to you all.
Well, so the segment that we have now, and that you are actually initiating or inaugurating, or right, is tell us what you're doing.
And let me just, before DeLacy, I'm going to give full disclosure. DeLacy is probably one of my dearest friends on earth. I mean, people don't know that. We've been best friends for 30-some-odd years. We have a long story, a long history. We've always been in each other's corner. And I find him to be one of the most dynamic black men in the state of New Jersey. Forget about the country, but just the state of New Jersey and Newark. And he has been transformative and innovative and very purposeful in the education marketplace and the community development marketplace, and how he works with African American men, how he helps to bridge those, negative realities to something positive for them. And I wanted to do this segment, and I wanted DeLacy to do it first because he just represents the best that we have in the city of Newark. And telling us what you do is an opportunity to say, hey, here's some things that I'm doing, but here's some things that I want to talk to my community about and have a dialogue with that community, with my community, about how we can work together to make the city of Newark better, to advance what our children are doing in the future, and build some sort of dialogue with each other. So that's why I asked you first, DeLacy, because I know you bring value to this discussion.
I thank you, and I'm reflections of you, brothers, and the work that we all do in the city, because we care about the city and we care about the residents. So that's just how we were built 35, 40, 50 years ago here in Newark.
That's right. So tell us some of the stuff that you're doing, DeLacy.
So let me say, first of all, I'm thankful to Joyce and Charles Hatchett, who are the board members who actually recruited me to run this family support organization in Union County. We provide support services, education, and advocacy for parents of children with special needs, behavioral, emotional, psychological, substance use challenges, as well as those who are juvenile justice involved. And so that, of course, allows me to do all the things that I've done around education, advocacy, around black cops against police brutality, helping parents to become better parents, but also advocating for them and teaching parents how to be empowered, whether it's in the educational system, whether it's in the healthcare system, the children's system of care, or if they're simply trying to improve their skill sets and build better relationships between parent and child. Like this coming Saturday, for example, we have 70 parents and children going to Universal Circus in Newark. This is something that I did at the charter school, something I did with the Police Athletic League annually, and now we're doing it with the Youth Partnership, where young people are leading their own advocacy group. I have a 14-year-old young lady that actually is the youth coach, that is the employee who runs it, Bernice Hightower, who was a kid that I met at 5 years old at Adelaide Sanford Charter School, and she was leading the kindergarten class then, and now at 14, she's running this group that has 26 young people in it, and actually guiding them every Thursday on how to be better, how to improve, how to go about getting services, not being ashamed of needing mental health services, or when you're in crisis, what adults can you go to, where do I find a safe place so I can be me, and how do I bring out the best of who I am under all circumstances. So, and this is just dynamic for me because it's giving young people the power. We claim that young people are the future, but rarely do we give them an opportunity to lead and lead us into their future.
Wow. DeLacy, let me ask you a question. What is your average budget for what you do a year? What is your average budget?
Teensy tiny. My budget is $588,000, which also has to cover employing 11 employees, 10 of them full-time, 1 part-time, a volunteer staff of about 25 people, usually between 8 and 10 college interns, usually Masters of Social Work students, Ambassador of Social Work students from Rutgers University, and anybody else that comes along and says, hey, I want to give, I want to donate. Certainly there's been community partners and system partners that do a lot to make sure that I can be successful in doing this, but I could never do it on my own, and certainly we don't get enough revenue to do this kind of work. For example, we have Pastor Nicole Simpson, who comes in every year to teach financial planning for young people and their parents. Nicole survived the World Trade Center bombing, and we've been friends since 2001, and so she gives back. We have an officer out of the Newark Police Department, Labib Abdullah, who's come every summer to help me with male mentoring, and he did something, Kev, that we learned as kids. He taught them how to shine shoes, and then donated a shoe shine kit to every young man in my male mentoring program. Like on Mondays, usually in July and August, I run what's called the Power Mondays program, which is 7 to 8 hours every Monday. I have young men between the ages of 14 and 21 who other people don't want to work with because they've got mental health challenges or juvenile justice challenges. And we literally put hands on them. We got a guy, Jeff Dunn, who's the chair of the Chamber of Commerce in Plainfield, New Jersey. He comes every year and teaches them the stock market, the Wall Street game. And so there isn't enough money to do what we do, but it still has to get done anyway. And so these people are just the examples of those who make it happen. And then you got David Muhammad, who's from Newark. His wife, Shakana Muhammad, is a reading specialist. She comes and donates her services to help kids who have literacy challenges. She's done it for 3 years in a row, and she'll give her time to make sure these young people are not illiterate.
Let me ask you a question.
Let
me ask you a question, DeLacy. Do you have a GoFundMe page?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Listen, I don't, but you brothers just told me that somebody's going to set one up, huh?
Well, yeah. But because your story, listen, let me ask you another question. Where do you live at, DeLacy?
I live in Newark, New Jersey.
You live in Newark, New Jersey. Wow.
Yes, sir. I've been here all my life.
And you're in Union doing this kind of work.
I'm in Union County doing this. I'll tell you what Governor Cody said. He saw me one day in a meeting, and he screams out as he's a keynote speaker, and he looks in the audience, and he goes, wow, DeLacy Davis, how the heck did y'all steal him from us in Newark?
Wow.
How did y'all get him? And I answered him honestly. I said, I went where people wanted me.
Right, that's right. And, and the reason I asked that question is because we have so much talent in the city of Newark. And a lot of our brothers and sisters or people that I've talked to in the last several years, they feel locked out. We don't have the nonprofit community thriving the way it used to. Our politics has become very, very, negative in a lot of ways. They're not embracing real talent. And when I hear your narrative and I hear your story and I hear what you're doing for those African American kids and how you took that program and you grew that program, I'm very impressed. And I want everybody to know that DeLacy's vocation is to save the world. I always tell people DeLacy is trying to save the world. And and you do it with such style and grace. And you're always true to what you're doing. Your values and your principles. I've seen you in a number of occasions in your personal life make decisions that you could have profited from, but you walked away from because you thought it was bad for your community and bad for children and families. And I just wanted you to be the first person to tell your story, tell us what you're doing. And as far as your GoMe page is concerned, we should talk about that offline.
Yeah, we're going to get that done. But now, outside of the GoFundMe page, since we do have you on air and there are people listening, and you did talk about the fact that you have a minuscule budget, but you have a Herculean task ahead of you, and you have people who are volunteering. How can some of the people who might be listening to the show now volunteer?
It's easy. First, they can either reach out to me directly, DeLacyDavis@gmail.com. That's DELACY, Davis@gmail.com. They can go to the website, Family Support Organization of Union County, and there's an info page there where they can directly link into the organization. And any of the other things, and obviously I'm on Facebook and Twitter and all the other social media contacts, literally publicly available.
Okay, can you do me one more? Can you do me one more favor before we say that one more time?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So it's DeLacyDavis@gmail.com. That's DELACY Davis@gmail.com. Also, you can go to the website for the Family Support Organization of Union County, which is FSO-union.org, or you can catch me on Facebook or Twitter and anywhere else in social media, LinkedIn. We're in all of those places, both the organization and myself personally, which you can grab us.
Okay.
And we welcome.
Well, DeLacy, I love you. Thank you. And we'd love to get you on the show. I know you have. We would love to do a segment on just what you do, and I know the impact, the high impact approach you take on everything that you do. And we'll call you in the next couple of weeks, and maybe we do a whole segment with you, if you don't mind.
I thank you, brother. I definitely would consider that. Would love to come in. I stepped out of a meeting in Trenton to come take this call, so I appreciate the opportunity.
We appreciate you, man. We
All right.
appreciate you.
Thanks for telling us what you do, Lacey.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
We'll be right back after this commercial.
You're listening to the Eric Dawson Radio Show on 94.3 FM.
Looking for trustworthy tax professionals? Give Impact Corp a call. We will assist you with all your tax needs. We are a team of CPAs and IRS enrolled agents. If you are audited, our audit protection team will represent you at no out-of-pocket costs. We provide 3 years audit protection and a year identity theft protection, so you can have peace of mind without fear of audit. Call our team of tax experts today, 973-395-4401.
You're listening to the Eric Dawson Radio Show on 94.3 FM.
Hey, welcome back. Man, that was I'm listening to all the work, right?
Right.
And I knew, he's a busy guy, and we had a small time to spend with him. But I'm hoping to be able to sit and meet with him to firstly figure out how, as a marketing guy, I might be able to help market what he does, to help bring in more revenue, to help grow, what it is. But also use this, I was figuring during that break, how to use this platform on a regular basis. I mean, maybe we, create a 30-second spot or something, and we play it on the station, to try to drive people to them. But it was amazing.
Well, look, Newark is a great Renaissance city with a lot of great people living in the city. That
but he's not doing it in Newark.
Well,
and what he said was, I tell you, man, it cut to the quick. He said, I went where people wanted me.
Right. Well, presently, right now, we don't really embrace talented people like DeLacy Davis because we don't want people to tell us if we're wrong about something or guide us in the right direction. I mean, presently there's a culture that says that if you're smart and creative and brilliant and strong, you can't work here. We only want the worst of them all. We want the people that'll salute you. Everybody knows that. That's not something I'm just making up. We are now at the bottom of bottom of the barrel when it comes to talent, and that's frightening. That is frightening. And a lot of the young people and a lot of middle-aged people that have so much history and understand how these things are developed and how to build institutions, they don't want to be involved anymore. They're like, we don't want to be involved in chaos. And if anybody disagrees with me, give me some examples. I mean, because there's so many great people coming off that train every day, coming into the city of Newark,
right.
and have a number of resources that really don't want to get involved with negative behavior. And that's the narrative. So, if anybody wants to prove me wrong, just line up the people along the wall, and I could tell you can't do their job, don't know what he's doing, overpaid, and I could just keep going on and on and on.
Wow. Well, keeping on, DeLacy Davis. You're doing a great job.
Yeah,
man.
Proud of him.
We're very, very proud of him. The next thing is, speaking of under talent, and I'm sorry, I just have to say, the guy Cosmo Vision, who does the show before this, he says, Eric, he said, listen, man, I know what you say and what you do. You get a lot of hits for it. He said, but you're telling the truth. And I said, dude, I don't know any other way to do it. And so this whole reorganization of the board, well, first it was a travesty to have those folks elected. We talked about it, almost ad nauseum during our education week, but it really did demonstrate to a whole lot of people who were on the outside looking in that we don't care as much as we serve up lip service about our kids. We don't care, because if we did, we would not have voted the way that we voted. But then beyond that, you had elected officials in support of a board voting to put Marquise Lewis as the chairman. And, I gotta say, I hope whoever becomes governor, I know that a lot of you all want local control. Sometimes, what you want may not be the best thing for you in that moment. And I've just got to say that the lack of discipline, the lack of I don't judgment maybe is a word that the electorate used in voting for these three candidates, and then the lack of interest that I saw in terms of people showing up at the reorganization meeting and literally just raising all hell when they realized that Marquise Lewis was going to be the chairman. The fact that you didn't do that should strongly suggest to the next governor of the state of New Jersey that you're not ready to have local control, and that he should keep it, and the state should maintain it until such time that we can make better decisions.
Well, everybody in Newark, New Jersey knows how I feel about what happened in the last school board election. It was an indictment on the city of Newark. Forget about all of the bolder narratives that this was a travesty against our children, and that we don't value education, and we don't think it's important. But if I'm going to bring a team to the table to negotiate for local control, we could have done better than that. We could have put people in that room and elected people in that room that understood the seriousness of what's going to be happening in the city of Newark when local control comes back. The narrative in the political world is if local control comes back, we're going to create jobs. Well, we see what's happening at the Newark Housing Authority. Losing jobs, on furlough, mismanagement, $1.2 million budget. We see what's happening in the Newark public school system, $42 million given to a developer when we could have built a new school and created a high-impact jobs program. We see what's happening in our municipal government, where you have people coming off the street getting $75,000 raises that don't know anything about anything. It's a friends and families program in city government.
But that's exactly why the state took over.
Let me finish my point. Let me just finish my point. And I don't think to continue to keep saying that, if people want to live in denial about that, that's fine. But then please don't go around the country marketing our city as a phenomenal city when we can't get that one thing right. So that's the thing that disturbs me. Getting local control back is a business negotiation. It's a discussion about numbers. It's a discussion about infrastructure, and it's a discussion about how we're going to fund it. And the taxpayer is going to be impacted by it. The children are going to be impacted by it, and our community is going to be impacted by it. So what we saw last week was a clear detachment from reality, right? It was petty politics. It was status quo politics. It was the lowest form of how we use politics to advance our people. So we get an F in Newark for that decision that was made. We get an F for not taking this issue of education serious. And we get an F because we don't have a plan to go into the future, move into the future. So when we talk about charter schools, when we talk about traditional schools, when we talk about taxes, when we talk about crime, when we talk about not having enough jobs to offer people, this is why this is happening. And so we lost. We failed. Montclair, Philadelphia, every place in the country, right, is looking at Newark, and we could have sent a great example to the world that we were not going to put people in place that did not have the long-term best interests of our community. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about next week is this whole jobs discussion we've been having in the city of Newark. And I've done a lot of research, and I think I sent you something for you to read before we talk about it. Because I'm going to finally break down the illusion, break down the deceit by deception, so everybody at home could really know why these jobs aren't coming back, why we're in a situation where we can't create the jobs that we need to create, and why these market forces are going to continue to push us out of the game, because we're still using a 19th century model. I think we still got to go back to that. So that vote last week showed everybody in the state of New Jersey, showed everybody in Essex County, showed everybody in the surrounding cities that we're just not ready. The largest city in the state of New Jersey couldn't make a practical business decision to put credible people, whoever they were, credible people to represent us when it comes to this most serious issue of education and local control. Now, Padilla, Tave, I've known Tave all his life.
Board member, for those of you
we
that
grew
don't
up
know.
But the reason why I would have accepted him over all of that, it's because I know he was a small businessman. I mean, for years when it was difficult to be a small businessman. I know he's done all the training and reconstituted his mind based on what he's learned by where he's working. I saw him evolved. So I believe if he had walked in, I mean, he would have been still driven by special interests, but at least I could have had a conversation with the guy and say, listen, you need to think about this, you need to think about that, you need to think about this. So the vote, however it went, it still was an indictment on the future of our city.
Right. So the vote occurred, right? We have the president of the board, and what I'm going to say again is
who now represents us in the marketplace of education.
Absolutely.
Wait a minute, though.
Nationally, we have
the largest industrial complex, $1.some billion, right?
Marquise Lewis represents us nationally.
Think about
I want you to understand that.
Think about how Surf must feel for his last year having all of that up there. I know he's going to have a field day.
Well, but I told you how I felt about it, and it was personal for me. My dad was the board president.
Yeah.
You know, and I sat and I watched him labor over making decisions that were in the best interest of the kids. My dad also sat on Jimmy Carter's educational council, right? So when I look and I say, well, okay, Carl Sharif was a board member, and I go here and say Marquise Lewis is a board member.
But you know what though? I gotta tell you
board president. I can't do that.
You know what, Eric? We can sit
even a young man, even Rashan Hassan, who sits here on Tuesdays with us.
Incredible,
right? I can't imagine having Marquise Lewis sit next to us and have in-depth discussions about education policy and things like that.
But you know, it's just like we had a discussion about the young lady that was running on his ticket. And you know, I'm of the opinion now that I don't even know if I should blame them. I don't even know if I can blame them anymore. I blame the citizens of Newark.
Absolutely. Oh no,
I blame the leaders in this town. I mean, listen. Wait a minute, though. They were. Listen. They were actually. This is how pathetic it is. They weren't looking at his newly elected position as the school board president as something important for the future of the city. They were looking at it
bargaining chip.
Not. Can I be honest with you? I don't even think it went. They're not that sophisticated. Let me tell you what I think it was. It was to give the people that vote. That person was to give the world the impression that they did better in the last school board election than what everybody knows they didn't. So to put him there is to say, "Oh, we got one of our people there." I'm telling you, when I tell you how base it is and how ignorant it is, I mean, that is at the core. Listen to me.
I understand what you're saying, but I had hoped that it wouldn't be something as small as that.
Listen, I'm an insider, right? If I didn't like you on the school board, if you were a brilliant guy,
so you're saying the inside baseball, then, it was that the mayor wanted to be able to puff out his chest to the other inside baseball players and say, look what I got.
Well, because the whole narrative, here's the issue. The whole narrative was Aníbal Ramos did a great job and he's the kingmaker. Last year, right, Gail got Kim Gaddy over. Now, this is really interesting how misogynistic the world is. Last year, Gail Person comes in number 1, Norfolk comes in number 2, but you didn't hear any of the men say Gail was a kingmaker. A queenmaker, a kingmaker, a queenmaker, actually, right? Then this year, Aníbal Ramos does a great job. Does a stupendous job. He saves the day, right? And he gets the marking of kingmaker, right? The media, right? That's what the media does. They're selling papers, right? So now, just snapshot from there, it was imperative for them to have somebody get something that gives them the perception, the optics that they, won something. That is why the young man is there. And they negotiated for it. They negotiated for it. Just like they negotiated not to put quality people on the school board. I mean, in the last election, they negotiated. So there's a pattern. They purchase failure, right? They purchase failure and they sell you that as hope. Hear what I'm saying? They purchase failure and package it and sell it to you as hope. And the citizens of Newark, either they are just disconnected, or they just are so sick and tired of it, or they're just so fatigued. They're not even paying attention, because you know what they're saying? I'm not surprised. I just want to pay my bills. If I could just get out of this town, I don't know what to do. My kids can't go to school.
Oh, they're overwhelmed with the failure.
The helicopter's over my head. Every day they fighting in City Hall. You got people down there making $167,000 that can't read. You got people running youth programs. You got people running youth programs that don't even have a GED. I mean, you got people fighting all over the weekend. You got people threatening people. You got people having meetings and saying, I'm not going to let anybody bully you in City Hall anymore, but that's the bully. I mean, come on, guys.
But this is right.
But then they don't want us to talk.
But what I'm going to say to the listeners who are listening, and this is where you can play another role. For all of the folks who say that they don't get information or they don't have access to it, we're providing some content here. Please share it with them. But then for them, and I hear what you're saying, Kev, that there's some overwhelming feeling of, things are just not going to get better, and I'm just going to do the best I can do and then get the hell out of here when opportunity presents itself. But while you're here, I think you have a responsibility. And I believe this. If you're not a part of the solution, you are a part of the problem. So as overwhelmed as you might be, if you're not a part of the solution, you are a part of the problem. And so it is imperative when you don't go and vote. It's something as simple as vote. You could have changed the trajectory of all of this discussion had you simply gone out and voted. That's it. And so, the woe is me, I'm tired, I'm beat down, they're attacking me, I can't take it anymore. I can't hear that. You are a part of this neighborhood. You are a part of what's going on. And if you're not a part of the solution, you are a part of the problem.
Look.
I can't, but I hear what you're saying. I had that conversation this weekend, man. In fact, I was in the IHOP on Springfield Avenue talking to some people about that.
Well, yeah. So, listen. At the end of the day, it's about courage. But let's take a step back. I talked about not blaming Marquise and not blaming any of the other people anymore. The leadership that's representing us now, they just have low standards.
All of them.
They have low standards, and they basically get up every day and they just lie. They just make up stuff.
Well, but let's be clear, not just the elected leaders,
right?
The selected leaders, right? All those people who put themselves
consistent dumbing down of leadership is having a negative impact on the future of our city.
I didn't hear one leader talk about Marquise Lewis being elected board president. Not one.
No. I gotta tell you. Actually, to be honest with you, I think they can't say it yet because they're still laughing. They're in shock. They're in awe. I always give people the opportunity to take some time and figure out what's going on. So the first reaction that I heard, and when he was elected as the president of the school board, it was like everybody gasped. Then everybody got quiet, and then everybody went home and laughed, and then everybody got up the next day and was frightened. Because if you just go down, all the way down the system of leaders, I'm talking about elected leaders, this is the worst group that I've seen in decades. Okay, so and we should be asking for them to do better, or to do something that gives us the impression that they're paying attention. Right? Because everybody's worrying about 2018 now. I tell you, it's fascinating to me. Everybody's worrying about who's going to be with who, but look at all the problems that we have. But now here's the real crazy thing. People listen to your show, Eric, and you allow me to come on this show with you, and I appreciate it. And then you know what they do? They go out and try to correct what you and I are talking about, which even makes it worse. That means because they never had any plans in the first place. And if we did not bring it up or have a conversation or initiate a debate, they would still be doing the same thing. So when they come to you, they're lying. Oh, I want us to have a better dialogue. Lie. You're just coming because you've been exposed.
Right. You'd like me to be quiet.
Yeah, be quiet.
That's what they would like.
Oh, well, you know what? Our budget is doing much better than it is. Lie. I can count. You can't go from 2013, 2014, then sign an agreement with the state, and then blow out your budget, and then come back and tell me you got a $93 million structural deficit you corrected. Come on, folks, you can't do that. And then, but then they'll go back out there and they'll rework that language.
And listen, we're not done. We're going to take this 11 o'clock break, and when we get back, we're going to finish talking about this reorganization.
Splash Radio 94.3.
reggae, dancehall, soca, hip-hop and R&B, African, disco, oldies but goodies.
Hi, this is Janet Jackson.
We're bridging the gap. Seriously. Splash Radio 94.3 New Jersey.
I went with.
Hi, this is McBoomin Moving. Box truck for rent for all your light moving needs. Anywhere within the Northeast Orange, Irvington Orange areas. $50 a trip from Monday through Thursday. $60 from Friday through Sunday. Call 862-279-9300. That's 862-279-9300.
Know what I am doing? Downloading the Western Union app. I need to send money to my auntie in Nigeria. Know what I am doing now? Checking today's exchange rate to Nigeria on the Western Union app. Now, I'm sending my auntie money to help her with her groceries.
Download the Western Union app today. Use it to check today's exchange rate and send money to loved ones in Nigeria. Western Union, moving money for better.
Western Union makes money from currency exchange. Carefully compare fees and exchange rates, which may vary and are subject to change. NMLS number 906983.
For the most authentic Caribbean food in town, check out Sunsplash Caribbean Bakery and Restaurant. They got a natural organic juice bar that'll get your day started right. Like the Power Punch, the Big Juice, the Mega Green, Roots like the Immortal and the Resurrection. And peep this, they have an extended bakery department that whips up my favorite, the hot Hardo breads. White or wheat, that's your choice.
If you're feeling hungry, just grab a bite. At Sunsplash Bakery, the food is right. Jamaican party, Italian veggie. At Sunsplash Bakery, the food is right. Mix the bean up with the caramel Paris.
Serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they also cater to vegans and vegetarians with the Ital stew and the Ital aki, the soul jerk salmon and mango tilapia. And of course, they got the usual curry goat, oxtail, brown stew chicken, jerk chicken, and so much more. I mean, their menu is extended and they're highly rated. Your best bet is to just stop by or give them a call. They're open Monday through Wednesday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Thursday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sundays, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. They're located at 56 Main Street in Orange, New Jersey, and can be reached at 973-395-3777.
These days are some hungry days. We need some more food up on we empty plate. Long time we there and we sit on a wait. Sunsplash restaurant I run the place. Everybody me say just want a taste, yeah.
Let your food be a medicine. Eat well, live longer. I'm David Shepard and I endorse this commercial.
Yo, this is Splash Radio at the #1 radio station in New Jersey. What are them?
Other than no, Mr. G represent for 94.3 FM Splash Radio. We'll splash out the music on them.
You're listening to the Eric Dawson Radio Show on 94.3 FM.
So we're back to continue talking about the election results, the reorganization. You know, one of the things that I did, Kev, when we went to the break, is I went to Newark Public School Advisory Board's website. And I went there because I wanted to see the bios that were put up for the 3 newly elected candidates. And you know what I'm going to look for.
Right.
I'm going to look to see whether or not the same failed leadership that we're talking about that was in support of not only that slate of candidates, but that were in support and or silent, and by their silence, complicit in the election of Marquise Lewis to the president of the board, if that same failed leadership is going to be complicit in the continued fraudulent actions of Reggie Bledsoe. So I know, and they have to know by now, because I've made a big enough splash about it, that Reggie doesn't have a college degree. And so now they're going to reach a moment of truth when they put that bio on the board webpage. I mean, that's going to be crazy. I'm wondering how they're going to handle that, because if they put that he has a degree, then they are knowingly, I could say that maybe
well, listen, it goes back to what we were just saying about what's happening in the education marketplace. Who's going to be negotiating for the largest education industrial complex? Who's going to be negotiating for re-engineering the public schools? Who's going to be creating this citywide, statewide, national-wide dialogue about where schools in Newark need to be moving to? I dare say, if a young man who you've given a lot of opportunity to clear it up,
and not just to him, but everybody.
But this is the thing that this is where we're going with this, right? If the young man hasn't cleared it up, what I've heard from you is that he called you on the phone or texted you to basically threaten you with a lawyer.
That's correct.
Then he called you and said to you, it didn't have to be on there. I graduated. So he basically lied again. Now that's enormous hubris, right? So now, as a leader, if you were on my team and I found out that you lied about your education, I would almost actually have to ask you to disqualify yourself.
Right.
Because now, how could you represent me in the education marketplace, right, with all of those people that are going to be lined up around that table, right, and you lied about your education? So when you come back to me, I can't trust what you say. When you come back to me, I can't trust that you're going to do the right thing and fight against status quo. When you come back to me, I can't trust that you're going to fight for my children and family, because the day you started, you lied.
That's right.
Now that's hubris. He should do what all professionals do when we make a mistake. Write a letter, do a video, whatever you guys do on that thing, and say, I'm sorry I let you down. I'm sorry that I did not represent myself in the right manner. And if you forgive me, I think that I could do a better job. But you know what I've been hearing? Let me tell you what I've been hearing. Arrogance from him. Defiance from him. Fact that you don't know what you're talking about, and I dare them say something about me. To the point now that he believes that he should be elevated to another job. Now here's a young man. Now let's be clear now. Here's a young man. And I've said this from the first time you brought up his name, correct? That I like.
You did say that too.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
That's exactly what
did
you
I not
said.
say that to you?
You absolutely said that.
And then when it came to the other lady named Felicia, I said, look, let's not beat up on her. She's being used by the third hand.
That's exactly what you
we
said.
said she's being used by the CMOs. We're saying she's being used by a defunct organization called PC2E. Right? We said that they didn't want the best qualified human beings to lead the school board or be on the school board ticket. Right?
That's exactly what you said.
And status quo was going to destroy our opportunity to get a hold of that educational complex and do a better job to re-engineer. So we got a person that lied, and we got a person that was elected that sent a message to the world that we are the most irresponsible city in the country to have them leading that industrial complex.
That's right.
Right? So now, he can write a letter and say, you know what? I only not apologize for all of that, but Mr. Dawson, I apologize for you for calling you on your phone. Now, here I am saying this. Now, do you think that young man is going to call me and text me? You know what he should be calling me? Uncle Kevin, can you write the letter? And I would help him. Right. Because you have to apologize. Okay?
Yeah.
You have to apologize. So that's an issue for me. So right now on the school board, dysfunctionality, chaos at its best. We're getting ready to negotiate.
Supported by some of the most influential leaders in our community. I mean, that's the crazy part. Like, if they were operating independently, that'd be one thing. But you have people who have been in this political space for decades.
Let me tell you what I think.
Who are watching it, and they just don't give a damn.
I think that the citizens of Newark,
and they don't care because of the citizens of Newark. The citizens of Newark won't say a damn thing. They won't show up. They won't complain about it. They won't protest or whatever they do about these things that really matter.
Well, listen, you now have a mayor seeking legal counsel from a private lawyer, criminal lawyer. What does that say to the world? We now have a school board with people that are not prepared to negotiate for local control. What does that tell you about us? We now have a person that ran for the school board that lied about his education, which was not necessary because nobody was asking. Right? You now have dysfunctionality and furloughs down at the Newark Public Housing. Morale is low. People are angry. people pensions are going to be affected. You now have a con job occurring in city government now that I'm going to come and walk and I'm going to talk with all of y'all because y'all know me. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's the thing. Instead of doing that, just lead. Do you know sometimes if you just lead, people are like, hey, you know what? You know, don't run down a list of 42 things that you did when in fact you didn't. And I explained that word organic transference, right? Now, when you do build something, we're going to be like, there you go, right? Don't talk about affordable housing when you're getting ready to tear down Terrell Homes, right? Don't talk about creating jobs when you didn't fight for the 1,400 jobs. You didn't fight for the small businesses. You didn't fight for bringing new revenue in the city. Now, come on, see, that's the thing that really gets me in my gut. Because that's not necessary.
Just do your job.
So, come on now. Come on. So now, I want to know.
You know, and this is interesting. People say to us day in and day out, why are you talking about North?
I talk about, look, I'm getting ready to talk about France in a minute.
Oh.
I see, see, here's the problem.
Man.
Does Morning Joe talk about Trump every day?
I think he does.
Okay, and then he gets into international politics. You said we're going to get into that today about what the French election meant to the world.
And we're going to talk about this healthcare thing.
And this healthcare thing. So everybody.
Oh, by the way, guys, I posted the link on the page to show you the side-by-side comparison between the GOP's proposed policy and the and Obamacare.
Everybody knows in listening to this show that we are two black men that have a sense of purpose and an intellect that we can talk about a broad range of things. And if they're unhappy with what we're saying, you know what? Can I say something to you? Too bad. Okay, because we're not here. We don't work for them. You know, we work for the people. We come up here and spend our time to share our views and to do our commentary. And if you don't like it, too bad. You know, and like I said, Gail gets no ride, right?
Right.
I mean, nobody gets a ride. So if she would have voted for the legal counsel, private legal counsel, I would have questioned her. Right? I would have questioned her and say, why would you do that? She gets that. Nobody, you know, but if and guess what? She should be open to that. You know, so.
And so now this is my suggestion, Kev, because the side by side, right? There are several different components to this thing. You know, the breakdown is guaranteed coverage.
We're moving on to
insurance,
affordable care.
Yeah, well, we may be, but I'm asking you. So we've got guaranteed coverage. We've got insurance marketplaces. We've got information about, you know, actually who will and who won't be insured, how that breaks down, the impact on the deficit. Changes in insurance subsidies. So these are different categories that I'm looking at. Insurance mandates, women's health, Medicaid, how Medicaid is affected, taxes. So with about 45 minutes to go,
what about if we do this then? What about if we do this? Because this is pretty heady, right?
Yeah, man.
Okay, what about if we do this? What about if we put that up?
Okay.
Right? And we all know that we're going to have about 24 to 30 million people without insurance. We all know the pre-existing issue is a very serious issue. We all know that in the red states, you know, the Trump states, they're going to be impacted the worst, right? We all know that this is an assault on women and children of color. We all know that. And, you know, this is such a, you know, intricate discussion that we should give them the opportunity to read that and review that and then open up our show next Monday with that. Because that gives them an opportunity to read it. Because I don't think everybody's reading it. Listen, we all know that this is not going to pass the muster at the Senate. They're going to tear this thing up. So this is probably 6 months, 7 months, 8 months out. And the mere fact that Trump got up in the Rose Garden and did what he did just showed the buffoonery of this administration and his lack of understanding what the system of government. And for all of those men and a few women to stand up that didn't represent the rainbow of our country to clap and pat each other on the back because they're destroying people's lives. They're taking insurance away, all because they want to go after this African American man's legacy and go after this African American man's ability to have given something to the nation that Kennedy fought for, that Clinton fought for, Hillary fought for, Ted Kennedy fought for. I mean, Bush Jr. Senior fought for. I mean, this guy has no problem with taking the ugly stains of racism, right, out of his pocket and waving it in our faces and say, whatever coverage you think you have, whatever you think you might have to help you on those bad days, whatever you're thinking about your lack of your food insecurity, I'm taking it away from you. Now, the thing that I don't understand, and I'm a Democrat now, it ain't enough to march. I get that, right? But we have an election coming up soon next year, midterms, right? We should be organizing and communicating to anyone and everyone that votes for anything that he wants, that we're going to, if we have to go into their districts and work tirelessly, that's what we should do.
Well, this is, and I agree. I think that what we should be doing,
so we should put this up. We should put this up.
But I want to play a Chris Wallace clip before we put it up, right? Because I think it kind of sums up a lot of what's going on. But all politics are local. This is going to be a long time before. I mean, I don't think it's going to pass the, through the Senate. Anyway, I think it's going to have a lot of revisions to it before it gets to wherever it is. But if you guys are not energized, because healthcare and policies around healthcare affect all of us, and if you're not energized to know who your local elected leaders are that you could call, that can impact the vote on this, I'll put that information up too. But you need to be energized to do that. But here's a clip of Chris Wallace from Fox talking to Speaker Paul Ryan.
They said that 24 million fewer Americans will have health insurance in 10 years under your plan. You said that part of that is that this is what freedom looks like. Here you are.
This isn't a government mandate. This is not the government makes you buy what we say you should buy, and therefore the government thinks you're all going to buy it.
But, sir, is the major decrease in the number of people, according to the CBO, who will have health insurance, is it freedom, or is it that some people will no longer be able to afford health insurance under your plan? I want to show a specific case that the CBO put up. Look at these numbers. In 10 years, the CBO said, a 64-year-old with an income of $26,500 will pay $1,700 out of pocket under Obamacare for health insurance. Under your plan, the CBO says, that same person will have to pay $14,600 because insurance companies can charge more, and the tax credit that you're going to offer is smaller than the subsidy that Obamacare will offer. So what they're saying is this isn't freedom. This isn't people voluntarily deciding not to have health insurance. It's that your plan makes it unaffordable for people.
And the cricket you heard was Brian's response.
Well, let's for the sake of referencing what the Congressional Budget Office is, the CBO provides Congress with nonpartisan analysis for economic and budget decisions, and with estimates required for the congressional budget process. So while they're in the process of negotiating what the legislation is, this particular nonpartisan organization actually says if it can be funded and what the impacts are, positive or negative. Right. And they didn't even go get the CBO's opinion on this. They just rushed this through because Trump wanted a photo op. And it goes back to these declarations that I hear leaders, they're always making these huge declarations. So, Trump is now Trumpism is now spreading through the rest of the cities because everybody wants to stand on the stage and say, I'm going to create 50,000 jobs when your workforce is now prepared for 2. So these declarations is becoming a norm now. Nobody's getting into the details. That's one of the reasons why I appreciated Barack Obama. He could explain in detail, right, why he was doing what he was doing, and what the impact was, and what the overall challenges are. Right. Not make a declaration that I'm going to create 30,000 jobs, right, when we have the worst school system in America, one of them. When we have the worst leadership representing that school system in the country, not maybe one of them, right? When we have, a jobs program that's in the 19th century, right? When we have unions that don't clearly care because they only care about their membership, which they should, right? So you can't talk about an aggressive apprentice program, so you're 3 months on and 40 years off, right? So it's when you're having these kinds of discussions about how we make our system better, you have to do your homework. So you can't make grand declarations and say, you know what, because they think people are cheap.
Well, but that's how elections are won right now. Well,
we don't want to go through another election cycle where somebody stands up on the mountain and say, I'm going to save your soul, when we got food insecurities.
Well, and I said right now because you had Brexit, You had Donald Trump.
Right.
And then there was this thought that that was a sweeping movement that would bring Le Pen into office.
Well, let's go. That's a perfect segue into the French election. Thank God.
You like that segue?
That's a perfect
See that?
segue.
I tried.
Well, let's talk about why this particular election was so critical.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This young guy, finance guy, worked in the Ministry of Finance under Hollande, the former president, now the former president of France, emerged as this young dynamic leader talking about, moving into the future. I think it's emerger, right? Moving into the future, something like that, right? He runs against a complete nationalist. You're talking about themes from, World War I and World War II, isolating France.
But even before that, the two of them were running against the establishment.
Right.
So we have to say that both of them
did. Absolutely. Both of them beat
the establishment was not a part of this runoff.
Well, the thing I paid attention to about this election, because this would have been a carryover of this Make America Great Again. This would have been like, Viva la France, we're taking France away from the European Union. We're going to go back and use the franc, which would have destabilized their economy, would have created enormous inflation. And even the elite that was not very comfortable with Macron said, you know what, we can't have this radical person, because she was going to jumpstart what we all know was going to happen throughout the rest of the world. And it would have been a mandate that all crazy people could run for office, and it would have isolated Europe from the rest of the world. And Brexit is going to do that eventually. That's going to be a problem for their But see, one of the things about Britain that I thought was interesting, they kept their franc, and they still got the benefits of the EU.
Right.
But the Eurozone is very, very fragile right now. Eurozone meaning, that one currency. It's the value of the euro goes up and down so much, but it's having an impact on local economies because it's so regulated. It's tremendously regulated. So this young man winning this election was pivotal for the future of not populism, not illiberalism, not nationalism, but an openness to the world, because we have to be open. And his whole centrist purpose was to win this election so he could open up France further to the rest of the world, which will grow their economy.
Well, that's
the French people are very, they want to retire at 55. They want their 6 month vacations. They don't live the same quality lifestyle that we do. We work like dogs in this country. But the mere fact that the French was able to push back sent a message to Russia, sent a message to America, our president, not necessarily people, but I thought that victory was a really, really important victory. It saved Europe, and it got us thinking that we have to do a better job.
But let's be clear. It was a victory in a battle that is long but over. When you look at what's happening there now, and I think you alluded to it early on, that she doubled what her father previously got. So that movement is growing.
Oh, it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. And in fact, Macron has the parliament battle now.
It's going to be, He doesn't have any. He doesn't. Yeah.
It's not over by a long shot, man. And if he doesn't, because she's actually declared that she is the opposition force now.
Oh, absolutely, and she's the force to be reckoned with.
And when you look at when you break down the numbers, I was listening to him this morning. Again, they said a third of the people voted for him. Well, the way that they're looking at the inside numbers, a third voted for her, and then you had this other third that. They said were not that they didn't vote, but they had what do you call it? A protest vote.
Oh yeah, well you mean the one where they can fold up the white out, put it in.
Yeah, like a blank ballot in.
They don't count those, but now there's a movement to count those ballots, the protest ballot, right? But look what it says in the New York Times this morning. It says, beyond France, the election will be critical in determining Europe's openness, we talked about that, to the world, and the fate of its generous social welfare benefits. We just talked about that. It is being absolutely closely watched in Germany, which holds parliamentary elections in September, as well as in Italy, which could also hold elections this year. Now, the mere fact that this happened in France, now imagine if it had went the other way and Le Pen would have won. you got to know that Merkel would have been in jeopardy. Obama's on his way there now. I mean, he's going to be being hosted there soon, right? He just supported Macron, right? And now what's happening in Italy. So if there's a break of continuity between those three countries, right? If they really went and purchased a nationalistic perspective that Le Pen and that Trump is now bringing on, Trump's engaged in, we would have had a serious problem. We'd had a serious problem. So what's going to happen in Italy and what's going to happen in Germany is going to be important. So France sent a message, right? We're paying attention. All of our other brother countries and sisters countries in Europe, we need to pay attention, because if we go backwards, we know what that's going to bring us.
Well, listen. We need to here in America take note of what they did, how they fought. But I got to tell you something. When I was looking at, because you know, Kev, I supported Bernie Sanders.
Of course.
Right. You know, I'm looking at how our country, how our voters here should be looking at what's going on in Europe, and how we need to what's the word I'm looking at, thinking about, that we need to what's the word? There's a word. I'm at a loss for words, brother.
That's okay, man.
I'm at a loss for words. But anyway, I agree with you that that there's a lot to be done in Italy and in Germany.
Well, I think France is really helping the movement against populism and nationalism and this whole illiberalism that's happening in Europe right now. And you know what's really impacting this too, and nobody talks about it. Majority of these countries like France and Italy and Germany and Britain, they have a huge population of people of color. The Arab migration has impacted their bottom line, and a lot of the nationalists, a lot of the people that are from those countries are saying, why do we have to share our services? Why do we have to share our land with these people? But that's what that is so undemocratic, and is so against everything we believe in as a world, right? And they haven't been able to deal with that the right way. They haven't addressed that the right way. So that's how this nationalism and this populism that's been driving.
When you say they haven't been able to address it the right way, what do you mean?
Well, for instance, admit that it is an issue.
All right.
Come up with a plan that they can all agree on, right?
Right.
That will alleviate some of that pressure, right? That's occurring because of this great migration coming out of the Middle East, coming out of Africa, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, but it is interesting. Like, how do you have limited resources, right? You live in a country, so this is the whole nationalist thing. You live there. It's your country, right? You're French, and you're now being asked to share these limited resources with people who are coming, which will give you a smaller slice of the pie.
Well, but this is the same thing Hitler did. Hitler said, listen, we're going to make Germany, what it was, right? He got them to believe that, we're going to not only make Germany great again, but we're going to annihilate the people that we believe are that control our banks, that control our culture, that control our community. So he used a basic form of, insidious racism to annihilate a group of people, right? Based on, Germans thought they needed to have more land, land expansion. And what happened? Total destruction. Total destruction. And this same language he used. We're going to make our country better. We're going to get rid of the outsiders. We're going to suppress people that don't agree with us. Almost the same exact language. If you go back and study it for a little bit, it'll scare you. So if that started to happen in Europe, we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble. That's why the Italian election, Italy election, and the German election is going to be so important.
Let's grab this call. Hello, caller.
Good morning, fellas. This is Farrakhan.
Hey, what's going on, man?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain. But, Kevin, I just heard you say something, and I think it's a little maybe backwards. You said that the rest of the...
Hey, Farrakhan, can you talk clear? Yeah,
I can't hear
a little
you,
clearer.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that you guys have it maybe a little backwards in considering that the rest of the world has basically always been nationalistic. They have always had a very national view. This democratic concept comes from the United States of America, which is one of the newest countries on the earth. That most countries have always believed that, keep the other people out of their nation. And it's always been that way. So it's actually coming back to that. It's like we went to open borders all over the world. But now as resources are getting tighter, it's becoming closed borders again.
Yeah,
so
but
people are just going back to what they've always been.
Yeah, but there's two forms of nationalism. I understand. We're nationalistic too. We love our country. We want to protect our borders. We don't want people coming into our communities and taking our jobs. I mean, I think that I think I don't think that is as true as we leave it to be. But I believe that all countries have a pride in their country. But when you use nationalism to create isolationism, to isolate your country, or to close your borders from people that need your help, well, that's the wrong kind of nationalism. That's the nationalism I'm talking about. That whole Make America Great theme, that all Vive la France, French for French, that was not always the case in those countries. If that was the case, all of the Africans, the artists that were Africans that moved to Paris, they would have had a very difficult time if that was the case, right? So I understand what you're saying, but there are different forms of nationalism, and the nationalism language that they're using is a language that's a language based on demography. What is it? That word?
Demography.
I'm tongue-tied today.
No, that's okay.
And racism.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We just tied. But I hear what you're saying, though. I see what you're saying. But that's the point that I'm trying to make.
No, I get you. But now, isn't it also, when you look at the black people in France, right? They have always, like in America, been on the low end of the totem pole, right? Black people in France were rising up. What was it? The young youth, about 5-6 years ago, they were rioting in the streets in France because black people were getting mistreated. I don't know why back in the 50s, 60s, whatever it was, that they migrated. Maybe after World War II, so many of the artistic people migrated there, and they welcomed them in because maybe they were entertainers. Yeah. The truth is told, we've always been the substandard people everywhere we go.
But you bring up a point. But because this started happening at least 15 years ago, there were articles written about how the French had started to become very negative towards people of color. But this started happening. It definitely did, and this trend, that trending is what we see now, right? And it was a shift. It was a serious shift because they were writing about it, I think, about 10 years ago. So it was happening. But here's the deal: the French have more Africans living in the country and more Arabs living in the country than they ever anticipated. So they do have to figure out a way how to indoctrinate those communities that have moved into their city. I think the rioting that you saw over the last couple of years, I think that was because of several things: no jobs, no jobs, no jobs. So right. So there has been a problem in France, and a problem not necessarily in Germany, but a problem all around the world. With that in mind, for instance, what's happening in Jordan, same thing. You have the Palestinians that basically they're more Palestinians than Jordanians there. If you go to Iran and Iraq, you have a lot of them, the Syrians migrating to Iran and Iraq and then trying to get from there to another part of the world. So we're going to continue to keep having these problems. But what's happening is leaders like Trump or leaders like Le Pen, what they do is they take that and they turn that into this is really negative form of nationalism, which makes it even worse. That's my point.
Exactly. They go to the basic, to that basic, I don't know, concept that's in every human being, to self-preservation.
Right.
And they make it seem like you have to protect yourself against the other guy.
Right.
It's definitely wrong, but it's just my thing is always remember it's in the people already, and I don't know how do you get something out of people that's in them naturally.
What, right? Self-preservation?
Yeah.
How do you get? Well, so that is the real discussion, right? Because I don't think that you get people are concerned about themselves. They're concerned about making sure that they're going to be all right, that their children are going to be all right, that there are limited resources, that I'm going to have opportunity to have at those resources. So the idea of saying, when you talk about the fact that there are a few jobs, or you have people who have been unemployed for a long period of time, and you try to get them to focus on sharing with somebody else, where they're looking and saying, well, I might not have my next meal, right? I might not have I might not have money, and you want me to be focused on trying to figure out how to help somebody get a piece of something that I haven't even figured out how to get a piece of. That's a tough nut to crack. It really is a tough nut to crack.
Well, I want to read something to you, buddy, because you made me go back and get something. It says, one of the world's bastions of liberal and democratic values, Europe is now having to confront demons it thought it had laid to rest. The old pathologies of anti-Semitism, populist nationalism, and territorial aggression are threatening to tear the European post-war consensus apart. In riveting dispatches from this unfolding tragedy, James Kerchak shows us the shallow disingenuousness of the leaders who push for Brexit, examines how a vast migrant wave is exasperating tensions between Europeans and their Muslim minorities, exploring the rising of anti-Semitism that causes Jewish schools and synagogues in France and Germany to resemble armed bunkers, and describes how Russian imperial ambitions are destabilizing nations from Estonia to Ukraine. You see, it's that's what we're talking about right there. And I wanted to read that to you because I remember I was just reading that a couple of days ago. It's in his book, and maybe I can get it for you. It says The End of Europe, right? End of Europe. Okay?
But that's exactly it, though, right?
Right.
I mean, what it's saying is we're going back to what has always been. And without great leaders, I don't think we're going to end up in that direction.
Well, you're right. That's why the French election was so critical. And that's why the Germans election in September and October is going to be so critical. Because we have to push back. We have to push back against that. And I'm glad you brought that up. You made me go to the archives on you, man. I had to go to the archives, I have to keep this.
We're all in agreement. It's just like, we got to remember, there's this fine line. We don't want, like you said, we're going back. This world is going back to, slowly but surely, 200 years ago. That's what they want to do. They want to create the planet of when they said, make America great again, make Europe great again, make France great again, when they were enslaving and taking over
absolutely
throughout the world. And that's what it's reverting back to. That's going to cause, unfortunately, a war at some point.
Well, if this election did not go the way that it was supposed to, thank God, that could happen. It says here, I just want to give you one last piece here. It says here, with a new American president threatening to abandon his country's traditional role as an upholder of the liberal world order and guarantor of the continent's security, Europe may be alone in dealing with these unprecedented challenges. Based on extensive first-hand reporting, this book is a provocative, disturbing look at a continent in crises. Now, that's deep. So that's why talking about the French election is so important for us.
Farrakhan, thanks for the call.
All right, fellas, y'all be good. Take care.
But the question still remains. And there's a comment by Charles Love in the thread. He says, racism is a self-regulatory machine. You have to deal, Kevin, with the fact that people have to, that the same government that says, you know what, we want to be liberal in our thinking, right? We don't want to shut people out, but we haven't figured out how to take care of you. Right, we haven't adequately figured out how to take care of you. That government has to figure that out, because folks like Trump or folks like Le Pen, they rise because of those folks who feel disenfranchised. And so if you can't figure out how to take care of those people who are disenfranchised, then you're going to have the Le Pens, you're going to have the Trumps, you're going to have those people rise up. So what would be how would you go about making sure that that 1/3 that's disenfranchised, that voted for Le Pen, right? And then those who protested, because everybody who voted, all of the votes that were counted for Macron were not people who were in support of him. They were people who were voting anti-Le Pen. So how do you?
I think we need universal health care. I think we need a global works program. right? Infrastructure, global works program, just not one in America, but take the EU model and expand upon that, but to create a workers program. We have so much infrastructure to build in this world, but what's happening is the 1% of the 1% controls that. And this is a backlash against the wealthy, right? This is what we're not talking about. You know, these wealthy people, they come in and they, you know, when they're philanthropic ways, they throw some money on the ground. But at the end of the day, they're really throwing money on the ground because they want to control all the natural resources in the world, right? So until we deal with the 1%, right, and start creating some and break the chains of inequality, right? What we could do is create a global works program, right? A real one, right? That connects the world together. That will stop that those seeds from being sowed. I'm just saying. You asked the question.
I did ask the question. So now we understand that that's not going to happen.
So in Newark, right? So in Newark. So in Philadelphia. So in Boston. So in Irvington, East Orange, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So now this is where I agree with how we can jointly use our resources. I don't believe we need to share our governments with each other, but shared resources. You have maybe 45,000 different kinds of roads and water infrastructure problems and all kinds of issues impacting our infrastructure, right? So if those 12 mayors got together and say, look, we want to do a high impact, jobs program on transportation, and we are going to sign that, and we're going to go work with our legislators to do that and have competent people managing that, that might be something that can be done. Right? We have so much, right now we have so much infrastructure problems in our town, transportation problems in our town. I know people throw that around, but at least if you're thinking about it in an innovative way, some people might want to listen to you, or some people might want to engage in a different kind of discussion outside, and maybe that 1%, I'm just thinking, maybe that 1% could assist in helping to finance that. Right now, none of that's happening. Because if you go build if you fix your street right here, there ain't going to be no people of color. They're going to be waving flags, and they're going to be off the job in a minute because they're never going to be allowed to join the union.
Right.
So, so it's like the Marshall Plan, right, to rebuild Europe, right? We need a Marshall Plan here, but you got to have competent people running.
You do have to have competent people running it.
You asked me a question.
I did ask you a question, and so I want you guys to think about it, because you can't just be anti-something. You have to be pro-something as well. And so when we say we can't do that, well, then the question becomes, what can we do?
And I have a lot of, I think I share a lot of these reports with you that, that you should read. You should actually put online so people can understand the complexities of it and the seriousness of it, and think outside the box. Think outside the box. I think a lot of our leaders are not prepared to think outside the box.
Well, and
so that's one of the things that this whole French election discussion leading to Germany and leading to Italy, and what's happening in Greece. I mean, the whole devaluation of their dollar. I mean, it's just leveling. I mean, it's just killing that country. And austerity is not always the right thing. Oh, we got to take back stuff. We got to stimulate your market. You got to push money into the market.
Right.
And that's how your market grows. That's how your economy grows. So we that's where I'm at with it. We need to continue that conversation.
No, I mean, it's a great conversation to have.
Put this book online so people can go and buy it if they choose to be informed. Because this is about informing people, right?
Absolutely. So I'll put this up there, and for all of you who want to be able to access it and
it's a great
read
book.
I'm
reading a little bit every day. I got so many books. I mean,
I
don't know what to do with it.
But along with everything else that we do, you know what? I mean, I love the fact that we're having this global discussion, but I still don't want folks to get distracted from our local stuff, because the local stuff is important. People listen to this, man, and get distracted. We need to take care of our business. They took care of their business in France. We need to take care of our business here.
I like that. Well, we surely didn't take care of it last week.
No, we didn't. And we didn't take care of it. According to some. Well, no, I'm going to say it too. We didn't take care of it in November.
Right now, we didn't take care of it in November.
Right, and now we have an opportunity in midterm elections to take care of it. Right. So, while folks in other parts of the world are fighting and understanding the fight as we're laid it out here, we need to make sure that we're in the fight, not on the sidelines.
Yeah, that's true.
But Americans were on the sideline.
Look, we have we're going to have a budget crisis in the city of Newark. Mm-hmm. We have some crime issues right now. I've been hearing about that. I don't check the crime statistics, but the perception that we're not safe in our city is running high. We have a crisis in confidence in leadership. Nobody's asking questions. And when you ask questions, you're the bad person. Why are you asking questions? Oh, you must be running for something.
Well, crisis in leadership is not just in Newark, though. It's all across this country.
We said that. I mean, it's happening all over.
All across this country. We got a crisis in leadership. Yeah. Listen, we'll be right back after this.
Why are you asking? Go ahead.
Yeah, man. We'll be right back after this commercial.
Splash Radio 94.3. Reggae, dance hall, soca, hip-hop and R&B, African, disco, oldies but goodies.
Hi, this is Janet Jackson.
We're bridging the gap. Seriously. Splash Radio 94.3 New Jersey.
Well, we're moving on now to the
Hi, this is McBoomin Moving. Box truck for rent for all your light moving needs. Anywhere within the Northeast Orange, Irvington Orange areas. $50 a trip from Monday through Thursday. $60 from Friday through Sunday. Call 862-279-9300. That's 862-279-9300.
You're listening to the Eric Dawson Radio Show on 94.3 FM.
Hey, this is Eric Dawson. This is the Eric Dawson Radio Show, 94.3 FM. So we covered a lot of stuff. Hey, Kev, with the last, can we do this in 14 minutes?
Yes, sir.
I sent you a link to an article. The headline was Newark's Renaissance and the Role of the Nonprofit.
Oh, yeah.
Do we want to do
Yes,
it?
absolutely.
Do we want to? Can we do that?
Oh, yeah, we could do that.
All right.
I think we've touched on this dynamic a couple of times.
I'm going to post this article, too, so
Yeah.
people can understand what we're talking about. But the role of the nonprofits in the city of Newark and in its revitalization and the importance of these nonprofits, and some of them are not listed in here that were there early on, but they did list some of them. They listed the La Casa de Don Pedro and the Unified Vailsburg Service Organization, New Community Corporation, and who were the other ones that they listed?
But they didn't list many.
They didn't list many.
Well, it seemed to me when I was reading it that they believe that the whole story has not been told. Right? Is that what you got out of the article? Did you post it?
I know, I'm posting it right now. Yeah, I'm going to post it right now for you guys. And then you guys read it. Let me know what your thoughts are about it. What I got out of it when I read it was just an understanding that it is deeper than just these elected officials. It's more than just what City Hall does.
Well, I always suggest to you when we talk about these things or when people talk, they have to understand the arc of history, right? You have to understand where Newark was and where Newark is going and what has happened in between. So when you talk to me about the nonprofit sector and the role that it played as the stopgap for all of the negative things that were happening in our community on the housing side, on the social service side,
right,
on the community development side, if it was not for the nonprofit sector, right, who was more trained, who understood, micro and macro community development, economic development, had a number of professionals that understood how to build cities and work well with government, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. Newark would be 20 years setback. So while Mayor Sharp James was promoting the city, he had a group of people inside government that was working hand in hand with the nonprofit sector. And when money came into the system, we pushed that money to the nonprofit sector because they were the gatekeepers.
But right now, there's not a healthy relationship between.
But let me just. You got to talk about the arc of history. You got to put it in this perspective. So in doing that, you had a great growing period. We had great growth. Quest, nonprofit out of South Ward, New Community Corporation, Century Ward. Helped to build half of the city, the Century Ward, which led to the new growth in the Century Ward that's occurring now. So you had La Casa, you had the Donald Jackson Neighborhood Corporation, you had the Leaguers, you had the Babylands. I mean, you had an array of West Ward Community Cultural Center, the North Ward Cultural Center. I mean, you're talking about 50 to 60 nonprofit agencies that had top-notch staff, understood community development, understood how to go and get funding from the federal government and state government to do adequate housing, deal with the whole micro and macro issues of economic development and job training, right? So just think about from the 80s until 2006. But something happened leading up to 2006. A lot of the major funders, Victoria Foundation, the Prudential Foundation, there's another couple of them, I just can't remember, it was so many. They came up with the brilliant idea that, you know, all the things that these nonprofits were doing all these years, right, it wasn't good enough. They didn't see a return on investment, which was a lie.
Who is the they?
This is the philanthropist community, right? So they started to take back some of those resources and then pool them in a way where like 2 or 3 would be able to benefit from them. So what did the nonprofits have to do? And I'm missing some gaps. I can go on and on about this. But what the nonprofits had to do is retinker with their business model because their funding sources that they would normally get from the Victoria Foundation, you know, and all of these Prudential Foundation, it started to dry up and it became enormously competitive and they started feeding off each other. Then some of them just closed down. Some of them just went away. Then the state started reversing some of their funding sources to these agencies, which caused a problem, with the impact you see on our streets now is because of that. So the city government, as it changed from a comprehensive, trained group of professionals in government, when they left, nobody understood the seriousness of why we should support those agencies. Lincoln Park Coast Coastal. I can just keep remembering them, right? So there is no connection because no one that's in government right now came from the nonprofit sector and understood how to link that or how to take those limited resources and tie them in with Prudential, tie them in with Victoria, tie them in with, because see, they give you money for programs, but they give you no money for paying your staff. Right? So and the model that's there now, you're never going to be able to, I can see a bunch of them still closing down now. So now you're just relying on the city of Newark. You're just relying on the city government. Well, that's bad because we don't have the professionals in city government. We don't have the government class or the government professional that understands how to link some of the resources that they're getting in the city, the limited ones, to the nonprofits that are doing the job. But now there's a bigger story here. So when you have Politico, and you have these new news outlets that are not a part of Newark, they'll come in and write stories like Newark's on the rise. It's not true.
Right.
And that's what the nonprofits are saying. But you're not saying how we got here, and what happened to get us here. So we went through the empowerment zone process, right? When we took all of the target communities and we really microed and macroed what assets they have in those communities. So St. James AME Church was involved in that. There was a number of organizations that developed the blueprint for what the city of Newark should be, and using those resources coming out of those nonprofits. We're really losing. We have lost a talent pool that you just can't get back.
But this is why it's vitally important, and we talk about this. Why it's vitally important that the people that we put into positions of authority or power, that they understand all of this, and they don't, right? So not only, as you say, at the arc of history, but that they have a reach beyond their own neighborhood to be able to go and create networks of resources to aid, but without the understanding of how important these organizations were.
The state has wiped out the child care business in the city of Newark.
Right.
Wiped it out. But the child care business was not created just to take care of babies. It was created so the families would be able to go out to work. It was a jobs program, right? This new community housing program was on the forefront of great innovation in the 90s and 80s, 90s up to 2000. They're still there. But what they did with job training and what they did with community development, with their community development strategy, helped to grow out a local economy, which led to the new century war today.
I get that, but just because the state wiped it out doesn't mean that leaders in our community can't reach out to philanthropic resources to get money to supplement.
The philanthropic community, to me, right, they dropped the ball. If they were here now, they say, oh, we've done enough. No, you haven't. You haven't done enough because they still need the resources. They still need the resources. And the government, right, presently, as the way we look at our government being ran now, we have no resources to give them. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And sitting around the table and I think sometimes the nonprofit community forgets the world has changed too. And there's a tug of war, and Gail sometimes she has that because she's saying, well, you're doing that wrong. You want me to make this adjustment for you so you can qualify your business model, but that's not really helping the people that you're supposed to be helping. See, when you sit and talk with us, because we come from the nonprofit sector, we understand how the philanthropic community kind of pushed itself away and got these intermediaries to meet with you to decide how you get the money. And while they're doing all of that, you're dying because you can't make payroll. So that's a crisis. We're in a crisis. And we don't have that stopgap anymore. Now, so if I'm City 1, all right, City 1, and I had $5.6 million to do an upscale, aggressive jobs program, right? Well, why are we doing it in the city government? Why don't we talk to the people that have been doing it for 25 years and partner with them and then give them that stream of income to do a better program than we're capable of doing? See, we could do all kinds of creative things, but once you politicize it, right, that's what happened. So you give me the money, and then you got Joker 1 coming to your office saying, hey, man, we gave you $4.5 million, man. I want my daughter, she can't read, but I want her sitting her butt here. That's what's going on. So who wants to put up with that? That's when you politicize it, you discredit the whole process. Well, I can go on and on. You got to understand the arc of history. Arc of history. I can tell you about all those nonprofit corporations. I can tell you how they were funded. I can tell you when we lost our capacity to continue to build and be the stopgap for the city of Newark. I can tell you about New Community, Quest. I can tell you about all of those nonprofits.
So
Unified Valesburg.
So funds drying up.
There are no funds.
Funds dried up. Right. The philanthropic community pulled back. Then how does the city move forward?
Well, you have to sit down with professionals to think about, it's all about institutional science. I tell people say, well, what is that? That is taking your institution, right, and creating a new scientific approach to grow out whatever your focus is, right? So you have to take what you have and you have to retool it for the 21st century. Whatever those market demands are, whatever that new science is, where millennials are moving, like, we created millennial zone legislation out of our office. At my office, we're working on this millennial zone legislation with Jamel Holly. And when you talk about how you create new workforce development, we've developed this ladders program. I mean, we innovate every day for people in the state and give them the stuff that they need to be able to have an articulated conversation about what the new institutional science should be. And you can't walk in a room when a guy's using 19th century rhetoric and they're sitting there when they shouldn't be there. Well, we creating jobs. Well, we got them. It's not true. I mean, who's going to sit in a room and talk to people like that?
Yeah.
Nobody has the time. We're at war, right? We're at war, and they're not even bringing a good crack troop to the table. I mean, that's the problem. We don't have the talent to understand that anymore. Because it's so personal. Oh, well, he told me I didn't know what you were doing. I should have never been able to tell you that because you shouldn't have been at the table. Shut up. Could you imagine when we were younger, walking in a room, and we were trained really, really well. My age group was trained really well in the business of government, in the business of nonprofit development, in the business of community economic development, and the business of seeing how the world relates to our local economy. We dealt with that every day. We were trained to understand community organizing, community development, how we take communities and give them the ownership of the projects that they're doing. They understand how the building was built. They understand who the manager of the building. They understand who the architect was. Ownership is given that way, right? Could you imagine right now if a group of people had to come in and talk about the class of people we have now running our city and running our governments now? They would look at us like we're crazy.
Well, they do look at us like we're crazy. So I hope but they do. Right?
Well, I don't know. I don't run into them that much, but I know I would look at them. They crazy.
Well, I know they do. So listen, man, this was another great broadcast, man. I appreciate you. Hope the listening audience got a lot out of it.
And if you could post a lot of that stuff,
I'm gonna post all of it.
So they can go home and read it, and they can say, well, they gave us the information, and they are trying to inform and empower us. And don't take it personal. You know, just do your thing.
This is Eric.
This is Kevin.
We're out.
This has been the Eric Dawson Radio. It's 94.3.
Bringing dance hall, soca, hip hop and R&B, African, disco, oldies but goodies.